Hi, I'm Margaret Poncin Reeves, and I'm going to be talking to you today about promoting critical AI literacy through reflection. As a writing instructor, when I talk with my colleagues, we have been increasingly worried that since the release of ChatGPT in November 2022, that students have been using it to replace their critical thinking skills. However, I don't think it has to be that way. I think that students can use artificial intelligence. They can use it to write, but they can do it in a way that maintains and even enhances those writing skills. We just have to be more mindful about how we do it. The approach that I've been using in my writing courses has been to use a critical AI literacy framework. There's a number of different definitions of critical AI literacy, but they tend to have a few components in common. The first is that they are thinking about the impact of social and economic forces on artificial intelligence development. So, for example, how data has been scraped from the web without attribution or payment to the people that have produced that content. How artificial intelligence is also impacting our society. So things like what's going to happen to our jobs as AI becomes increasingly capable. It's also critical of artificial intelligence by identifying the limitations of these tools, places where they might hallucinate, where they might perpetuate bias, where they might stifle a student's creativity or voice if not used carefully. But critical AI literacy also indicates that we need to be literate in artificial intelligence, especially if we're going to be good at critiquing it. So this means we have to use it. We have to use it to write. We have to use it to compose. We have to understand a little bit about prompt engineering. We have to understand a little bit about how these tools work. And we have to know what tools to choose and what tools and what moments to integrate those tools into our writing process. So the way that I'm integrating it into my classes is to first allow students to use artificial intelligence tools when they write or when they compose a multimodal, multimedia project. So what that is depends on the course. It might be a research paper, it might be a social media artifact, it might be a video, but they produce it and they use AI to help them. And then they write up a reflection, this time without the assistance of AI, on what they've done. They then get feedback from me on both the thing that they created with AI, but also on that reflection. And then we repeat that process throughout the term so that they're able to build on what they've learned from their previous experiences. There's a few ways that I'm asking students to reflect. The first is that they're reflecting on their process. So I ask them, what choices did you make to impact the success of this composition? For example, did you just copy and paste my assignment prompt into the artificial intelligence tool? Or did you do some prompt engineering first? And then once you got that output, did you iterate on it? Did you revise it? Hopefully, yes. And when students do this, they report that they're learning about writing. So here's an example from one of my students' reflections. The student said, I started with only pasting in the assignment prompt. Then I remembered what we had talked about with prompt engineering and realized that the AI tool needed more context to sound more accurate to the situation it was addressing. The result was much better. The piece felt like it had a purpose. However, I did feel like it was missing one important aspect, and that was an understanding of the audience. And as a writing teacher, this was so great to hear. When I'm teaching writing, it's not just grammar and syntax and that kind of thing. It's really this stuff. It's really, who is your audience? What is the context you're writing in? What is your genre? What is your exigence from writing? If students can understand this, they become more effective writers. Through this process and reflecting on what they did with the AI, students reported feeling more confident in themselves as writers. In fact, they became more critical of the AI output throughout the term. They started doing more prompt engineering on the front end and more revising of the output on the back end. In addition to reflecting on process, I'm also asking students to reflect on their learning. So I ask them questions like this one from Paul Fife: to what degree are these documents you're writing? Do they sound like you? Do they really reflect what you think? Is it your intellectual property, would you say, or would you feel like it's more the intellectual property of the AI company? I also ask them, what are your takeaways from using artificial intelligence on this assignment? What do you gain and what do you lose when you use artificial intelligence? in this way? That last question puts the responsibility of learning onto the student, which is really where it should be. And students report that it helps them learn more and engage more deeply with the material. So for example, this is a reflection on an assignment which asked students to engage with an ethical dilemma. And the student reports that the AI tool helped them do this better. They say, the AI helped me look at the ethical aspects and much more complicated topics than what I initially thought of alone. It was kind of like guiding me to see the clear image of the context it made so that I could understand it more easily and tie it back to the assignment. Finally, I'm asking students to reflect on course concepts, on lectures, on readings, on discussions that we've had during the class, and apply it to the thing that they created with the AI's help. This is a type of reflection that works really well in courses where you're making something. So you're writing something, you're filming something, you're designing something, because you can ask questions like, how does this piece that you've co-created with AI reflect XYZ design principle, or this theory from intercultural communication, or this rhetorical concept we've been talking about. But I think it can also work for other types of courses. So for example, creating a lesson plan in an education class. How does this lesson plan that the AI created or that you created with the AI reflect or fail to reflect this principle of universal design for learning, for example? Or how do these campaign materials reflect what we've learned about this, political science philosophy? In a rhetoric class that I taught recently, here's what one student said about the course concepts. The student said that I have often found that my results in using artificial intelligence are more appropriate when asking ChatGPT to first consider the context in which they are creating the finished product. As humans, we use rhetorical tools to communicate, and this is a huge focus of the course lecture, using rhetorical tools to communicate. Here's what the student said. I believe it is equally important for the AI to understand the context of the rhetorical situation, as it often leads to a more tailored result. So the truth is that critical AI literacy does put us back where we started, which is that writing with artificial intelligence is complicated. But this framework helps students see how complicated it is. By using AI, by reflecting on it, and by receiving feedback on their use of artificial intelligence, they become more adept at understanding both its affordances and its limitations and using it as a composing tool. But the biggest takeaway, I think, is that students can use AI, and when they use it, they learn about artificial intelligence. They can use it and still learn about writing and composing and communication. And they can use it while enhancing their critical thinking skills. Thank you.